Well, hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to today's webinar. I am Molly Hughes, and this webinar series is focused on sustainability certifications and finding the best one for your brand or business. Today, we are featuring Green E certification for clean energy. The Center for Resource Solutions, also known as CRS, administers the certification and makes it easy to purchase verified clean energy, which is really a hot topic these days. So businesses are trying to strengthen their connection with customers, right? And research shows that customers want to buy products that are not only better for them, but also better for our planet. Yet shoppers are skeptical of non-verified sustainability claims, leaving them really unsure of who to trust. And research shows that it's third-party verified eco-labels or certifications that they trust most. Furthermore, there are certain eco-labels that qualify you for programs such as Amazon's Climate Pledge Friendly or government incentive grants and programs. So be sure to keep following and really staying up to date on these opportunities, and Softly can help with that. For this webinar series, we have a great list of certifying organizations that we're going to be speaking to and also about over the next month. We have Cradle to Cradle certification. That is next Thursday, April 13th. We also have Leaping Bunny for animal welfare on April 20th, as well as gluten-free certified in the coming week. So you are in the right place if you are a business considering certification, or if you just want to learn a little bit more about the process. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to bring on today's guest. We are super excited to learn about clean energy in the Green E certification. With us today is Michelle McGinty, the Senior Manager of Program Outreach with the Center for Resource Solutions. Welcome, Michelle.
Thanks so much for having me, Molly.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So let's start by learning a little bit about you, Michelle. How did you get involved in this nonprofit?
Yeah, so in school, I studied business and at first was just in, consulting. And then I really wanted to join something mission driven. So I started at a solar company and then eventually ended up at this nonprofit, which funnily enough, I had just opted up to my utilities green pricing program that was Greenie certified. So I was already familiar as I went into that interview and really happy to be here at a nonprofit, really pushing the renewable electricity market forward.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. So it's kind of neat that you had some background before going into it. So tell me about Center for Resource Solutions. What do you guys do?
So we're a nonprofit. We've been around for over 25 years, and our mission is create policy and market solutions to advance sustainable energy. And to that
Mhm.
effort, we have a few different work streams. We have some policy colleagues working on renewable energy and climate policy. We have an annual conference called the Renewable Energy Markets Conference. And then what we're most well known for is we administer the Greenie certification program, which we're talking about today, which includes the marketplace program to brand products, but also certifies environmental commodities like carbon offsets and renewable electricity and biomethane as well.
Okay, wow, you do a lot of things. Most of today's audience are brand managers for consumer goods. So while you certify, lots of types of businesses, the program I really want to start out focusing on at least is your green marketplace for businesses and brands. So let's talk a little bit about how that one works.
Yeah, so our Greening Marketplace program, we currently, as you see here, certify over 1,000 products. And the idea is to certify marketing claims related to renewable electricity usage.
Mm.
So it's really to help customers know that they're supporting a company that is supporting renewable electricity.
Okay. So explain to me. So are you certifying the product itself or are you certifying the business or how does that work?
Yeah, so we actually have options to certify both. So here you see examples of products. So you'll see our little logo on, Arm & Hammer baking soda, Herbal Essence shampoo, saying this product's made with 100% renewable electricity. But then we also certify businesses because some might not have products. Like Greenwood Traurig is a law firm, so they have a service company, so they more certify their operations. Or even Bank of America certifies their locations, their ATMs and their branches. So it's
Mhm.
very flexible, but it could either be on a product or more on like CSR reports or your websites to let your stakeholders know you source clean energy.
So I also see things like Home Depot on here. Obviously, not every single product that they offer is going to be Greenie certified. However, they're probably certifying maybe their operations.
You got it. For Office Depot, it's a corporate certification, so they're certifying their operations as using renewable electricity.
Okay. Are there like different levels of certification, or how do you decide kind of if a business comes to you, how do they decide which direction they want to go?
Yeah, so they get to choose if they want to participate more on the corporate level. We're certifying their, total operation claim, again, to use the logo and the claim more on their website or their CSR report are popular places to use that. Where there's also the more higher level of product or location level where we're taking the claim and narrowing it down to a specific product or a specific location and actually using the logo there to let the customers know, on the shelf that they're sourcing renewable electricity.
Right. Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the certification process. So this is going to be quite a bit of information. So if somebody does have a question, please be sure to put it in the chat and we will answer it at the end, as well as providing Michelle's contact information. So stick that into the chat. So before we do talk about certifications, though, let me step back just a teeny bit. And can you just give us a really quick high level overview of what types of energy is considered to be green or clean energy?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, not only do we certify marketing claims of using renewable electricity, but we
Mhm.
also certify the renewable electricity products themselves. And so, in doing that, we narrow down what type of renewables qualify. So, we have an independent greening governance board that decides that. That includes environmental stakeholders like Union of Concerned Scientists and NRDC and others. And they first say, what type of renewables do we want our program to support? And so that includes, wind and solar, pretty straightforward
Mhm.
renewable energy. Biomass qualifies, but we have restrictions on you can't just cut down a tree and burn it and call it
Mhm.
sustainable resource. It has
Mhm.
to be a byproduct of some other processes. Also, hydro qualifies, but there also are environmental concerns with impounding water. So we have restrictions in that it has to be low impact hydropower institute to qualify. And then there's also geothermal and there's also tidal, but that's pretty nascent market.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that criteria used to determine, if energy is considered to be green, I guess. You use RECs, so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's important to know how you can source renewable energy because I talk to a lot of brands and at first they're like, oh, I don't own my building, I'm in a co-packer, I can't go renewable. Well, I have good news to share in that you can because all renewable electricity is tracked using called renewable energy certificates or REC for short. And one REC represents the renewable attributes of 1 megawatt hour of renewable electricity generation. So when you see in this little pictograph, you have the generator, in this case, the solar
Mhm.
panel, and it's producing both electricity that goes into a shared grid and a REC, which is tracked in a tracking system, that environmental attribute. And there's a few reasons RECs are needed, mainly to be able to know if you're actually using renewables because all those RECs are on a shared grid. And so you need to be able to know who's getting credit for that clean energy. So that's really the need for RECs. And it's important to note that's used for both the voluntary market. So that's in the case of a brand choosing to go renewables and the regulatory markets for states who have certain goals of how much renewables they need. So this is the way everyone talks and transacts renewable electricity. And here, it's talking about, oh, sorry, did I cut you off?
It's okay. No, 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 no. That's exactly what I was going to go to. So perfect.
No worries. So here we're talking about the different ways to source renewable energy. And so I think, like I was mentioning, a lot of people think of self-generation as the one most common that people think about. I put solar on my roof, which is great if you're able to do that. But sometimes, you're not able to because you don't own the building or there's different constraints. So there's luckily other ways to purchase, such as direct purchasing, where you might be purchasing directly from a generator in the form of a power purchase agreement often. Or what's most popular, probably the easiest, and what most brands do to begin with, is retail purchasing, where you're actually just asking your utility could have an opt up option, which is called a utility green pricing program. Well, they'll source renewables on your behalf. Or you can also even just buy unbundled REC. There's actually REC retailers out there where you can just buy RECs on the market, pair that with your electricity, and make valid renewable energy usage claims. And support the renewable energy market. So there's a lot of options, but they all are tracked using RECs.
Okay. So I'm assuming, if you're a business out here and you're listening, you're like, hey, I don't know where to start. Um, kind of start by contacting you guys, right? And you can kind of walk through, hey, where are you at right now? And send them in the right direction.
Exactly.
Okay.
We're all about education, so we're here for you.
Yeah, you guys have been around for a long time too. So it's not like,
Yeah.
this is a hot topic now, but you've been doing this before it was really a hot topic.
It's amazing to
Um,
see the renewable energy market grow along with our program, and we're happy to be a part of that.
yeah. So let's talk about the standards that you use to really determine the energy source is clean or green.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I kind of mentioned the different resources that qualified, so that wind, solar, biomass, and hydro and geothermal with
Mhm.
certain restrictions. Not everything qualifies concerning different environmental concerns that our standard helps ensure. We also have requirements that the generators are less than 15 years old. That way, when you buy a Greenie certified product, so again, this is for the environmental commodities of buying RECs, or maybe your utility could offer a opt up Greenie certified green
Yep.
power program, then you know that it's meeting these requirements, such as also that 15-year new date, that the generators are newer. So you're helping encourage a growing renewable energy market by procuring from those
Mhm.
programs. Also has to be surplus to regulation. That's a really key piece in that we keep track of all the different state regulations and make sure that your voluntary procurement is incremental to that. You're not just subsidizing some sort of regulation that's going to occur otherwise, but you're
Mhm.
at pushing the needle forward above and beyond what would have happened without your action. And then we're also just like auditing the sellers of those environmental commodities to make sure you're getting exactly what was promised to you, because they are intangible environmental commodities. So we're making sure they're actually allocating those
Mhm.
renewables to you and that they're giving you clear disclosures so you understand what you're sourcing.
Okay. So I'm a business. I decide, hey, I want to work with you guys. I'm assuming one of the first things you're going to do is determine my footprint, my electricity footprint, or if I'm looking at, I know you also do carbon and offsets and some other things as well. Do you help walk through determining what that footprint is?
That's usually mostly on the business. We're happy to point you towards resources,
Mhm.
especially the US EPA has a lot of great calculators and resources for you to help you do that. But usually, a lot of businesses, it's mainly just getting your main electricity usage information of how much you're using, as well as like if you're in a co-packer facility, we will help. There's kind of ways to calculate how much approximately electricity you're responsible for once you know the total amount of electricity from your suppliers, and then we can kind of divide it by how much your particular product is responsible for. So we do help in that way and kind of point you in the right directions. And it's good you mentioned, those other, resources like carbon offsets and things like that. So yeah, renewable electricity is a great tool for your electricity needs. And it's always good to measure your electricity usage anyways, because first you also
Mhm.
want to continually try to reduce the amount of electricity you use. Because of course, the cleanest megawatt hour is the one you're not using. So you're constantly reducing those emissions or those usage, which is good to be aware of how much electricity you're using for that reason. And then you can just buy renewables for what you do need to help lower your carbon emissions.
Right, right. Okay, so let's talk about the consumer because businesses want to do the right thing, but they also know that that's what consumers are looking for. So let's talk a little bit about the value of having the Greenie logo on products, and maybe even give some examples of companies that have done so and had good results.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned customers. I think that's a huge one. Customers want to vote with their wallet and support companies that are
Mhm.
taking action. And reducing carbon emissions is one of the most important things you could do with the concerns with climate change. And so, telling customers that you're taking it seriously and actually sourcing renewables can
Mhm.
really help with that message. I also wanted to mention there's other stakeholders as well. Obviously, retailers often want to support brands that are doing taking these actions to reduce their emissions, or maybe retailers have their own goals of lowering their carbon emissions by sourcing more lower carbon emitting products.
Right.
And then finally, obviously, your employees who want to be proud of working for a
Mhm.
company that
Yep.
is taking this seriously. And then finally, also, if you have shareholders or investors, oftentimes now they're starting to report more, having more requirements for reporting climate issues and your carbon emissions and potential concerns with, the results of climate change and things like that. So there's lots of different stakeholders there. And yeah, we have lots of brands, from, mentioned a few already, but, we also have Garden of Life has been in our program a long time, Vitamin Company. I mentioned Church and Dwight has a lot of products, and Procter and Gamble as well with their herbal essence. And we had Cowd recently join. So we have a lot of different types of brands in our program. We also have a lot of small brands as well. As a nonprofit, we make our program really approachable for brands large and small. And really everyone can participate.
Yeah, I saw on your website there were some case studies of businesses that have gone through a certification and really how they've used that certification. So also we can go to your website if people want to see, hey, this is how it resonates with the consumer. I think it's a really good point.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your other programs, at least quickly, in case somebody's interested in those. You have ones for carbon offsets, for renewable fuels. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so carbon offsets, if you're unfamiliar, is another type of environmental commodity. But instead of representing the, environmental attributes of renewable electricity, what it represents is a reduction of 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide or equivalent that you
Mhm.
can then use to pair with your emissions and net out your emissions. So essentially, the main concept is there's some sort of baseline scenario, and then the sale of the carbon offsets actually causes a project to occur that reduces emissions, and that delta between the baseline and the carbon reductions is that carbon offset that you can then net out your emissions. So as I mentioned before, renewable reducing your emissions is the most important, obviously. Then renewable electricity is directly reducing your emissions. And then carbon offsets are a tool after that you can use to continue to reduce to net out your emissions. So it's kind of a way to help with, maybe you have
Mhm.
business travel that you can't stop doing. And so you can at least support carbon offset projects to reduce emissions elsewhere. And just like that energy program I was mentioning, we have a standard for quality control to make sure you're getting a legitimate carbon offset that's actually having real emission reductions, and help point you to high quality offsets. So it's called Greenie Climate. And so you can always just request that your carbon offsets be Greenie Climate certified to make sure they're high quality and that we've actually audited your seller to make sure you're getting what was promised to you. And then that last piece was biomethane. We have a renewable fuel certification to certify biomethane, or also called renewable natural gas. And that's a pretty young market, but that's available as well for
Mhm.
those trying to invest in that market.
Excellent. Okay. So we do have a question from the audience. It is, do you help businesses install energy sources also, such as like solar or wind?
Yeah, so our nonprofit, that's definitely not the focus of our nonprofit. We're more on, certifying these environmental commodities and marketing claims. However, we'd highly support you, going and putting solar or something on your
Mhm.
building, but we would definitely probably point you to some other organizations. It's not
Okay.
exactly our
Yeah.
expertise.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you also have a conference
Mhm.
coming up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your conferences and really what you talk about and what the value is and who your audience is for these conferences?
Yeah, so we have two conferences. This is our main conference in the US called the Renewable Energy Markets Conference that's coming up in September in Washington, D.C. I always tell people if you love nerding out about renewable energy, this is your conference for you. So those are my people. Definitely all sorts of people attend. I would
Mhm.
say more heavily probably on the renewable energy industry. So you'll get utilities, you'll get developers, you'll get these environmental commodity retailers, but also some buyers. So if you're really curious and you really want to dive in and learn about renewables, definitely recommend checking out the agenda. We'll give you a good idea of what we're talking about. We always have like a renewable energy 101. So it's definitely somewhere where you can get familiar, although we do go deep as
Basic.
well if you're really wanting to nerd out. And then I think we also have another conference coming up even sooner that is Renewable Energy Markets Asia, which is in Singapore later this month. And we're really excited because we've started, REM US we've had for many, many years. REM Asia is pretty new. We actually started in like 2020, so bad timing there. So this will be our
Yeah,
first
no kidding.
in-person conference. And I wanted to mention on this webinar because I figured, some of these brands might have supply chains that are in Asia that they're trying to help
Mhm.
green as well. And there's a lot lot of challenges in those markets, mainly, land space and things like that for renewables. So hopefully our conference will help get discussions flowing and help move farther in those challenges in the renewable energy markets in Asia to help suppliers green up.
Yeah, yeah, all good information. So you're based in the United States, right? Or are you based actually overseas?
Yeah, so we're based in San Francisco, California, although I personally am in Portland, Oregon. But
Mhm.
yeah, we're based in San Francisco. But in general, our main standard, we are kind of international in nature in that our main standard for energy is in the US and Canada. And that's where our
Mhm.
marketplace program to certify brands is available. However, we do also certify renewable energy in Singapore, Chile, and Taiwan as well. And I should mention, actually, Marketplace could be available those countries as well. But outside of that,
Okay.
those are the main countries that we're currently focusing on. But we are working to expand that. So you might see us in other countries in the future. And then also for carbon offsets, those are not limited by certain markets. So carbon offsets can be sourced anywhere around the globe, and we can certify them, and they can be used to net out your emissions anywhere in the globe. So that's already international by nature.
Excellent. Okay. So is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap this up today?
No, I really appreciate you having me. I would just say that if this is at all interesting or you're a little confused, please reach out. I know it's a little intimidating at first, but oftentimes people are surprised to learn that they can really make a difference in lowering their carbon emissions pretty quickly and easily, and
Mhm.
source renewables, and then let their customers know about it so that they continue to make the business case to be able to continue to reduce their emissions.
Yeah. So I think you're exactly right. I think sometimes it seems overwhelming, but you guys can make it easy. And I think that's really the key. So we thank you for being with us today, Michelle. You really had a lot of super information, interesting, and it was just good information to know. Research shows that most people want this kind of information. They want to support purpose driven businesses that are doing the right thing, yet they don't know who to trust. So all of you brands and businesses out there that were listening today, we talked about a great way to build that trust. And our goal at Softly is to help you with that process. And we're doing these webinars so you can learn about third party verification and certifications and really find what's best for your business. And Greenie is one of those. We also have a platform. You can see it right here that takes that message to the consumers. It's our personal sustainable shopping assistant, which is a free download. You can get it on the Chrome Web Store or at getsoftly.com. We elevate and suggest sustainable products that are certified to be what they say they are to shoppers. So to get a hold of us, here is the information that we promised you on the green e-certification. You can see there is the website here. There's Michelle's email. Also, this is a recorded webinar, so the information is going to be available to you later as well. And then here's the information on how to get a hold of us at Softly. We are looking for businesses that want to pilot a new platform that streamlines the certification process for sustainability eco labels and certifications. So please reach out to us if you're interested in partnering with us. We want to thank you so much for being with us today. Please join us again. Here's our upcoming schedule. We're booked out well past what you can see here. And for now, have a great day, everybody, and tread softly on the world.